What does the miraculous have to do with abuse? Quite a bit, actually, especially when we have seen a family metamorphosize and transform into wholeness after a great breach has been discovered upon the children of that household. And I'm going to share with you a very personal story, so I do want to put that parental discretion out there, that this is a heavier topic, but one that needs to be let into the atmosphere with light to dispel the darkness. Because abuse is one of those taboo things that we do not discuss, and we are ill-equipped to deal with in the church. We have not yet understood that there's spirits involved, that there's hereditary, generational trauma involved, and sometimes we are absolutely impotent and powerless as to how to remedy that. Unless, of course, we hear from the Lord. My own personal experience has been shared numerous times, but in this particular incident, I had moved to my location now outside of Atlanta about 4 years ago. And when I did that, I had a dream that I was flying backwards on a branch. It was like a holly branch, and it was being suspended in the air with all these wild birds, and it was just gorgeous, and it was so much fun and freeing. But I was going backwards through the valley of the shadow of death, and there was mountains surrounding me that were snow-capped, and they were dark as night, and it was very eerie. But somehow I had this revelation that I was okay, and I landed on a bridge, so it was kind of like overlooking the deep valley of these mountains, and there was a family there that had broken down in their RV. 4 to be exact, but there were bodies. It was just an impression of what is to come. So this was a prophetic dream because I broke off a branch from the thing that I was flying on, and I gave it to them, and all 4 of them soared together like a family. Okay, now I tell you that to tell you this, because I made sure when I got here that I did not sign up to go to a big meat market type gym, because I didn't want to have to meet men. I had my own issues that I was going through. And so I waited about 1.5 years, and finally I thought, okay, I'm about now ready to join this membership because they have a place where I can dance. The studio would be free to me. I walk in, and the door is being held by this very good looking man. And he was like, hey, how you doing? And I'm like, not interested, buddy. Like, I'm here to sign up, and this is the exact reason why I didn't want to show up on the scene, because I didn't want to talk to anybody of the opposite sex. So he's like, well, I just want to know where you're from, and da-da-da. I said, you know what? I'm from the north, and I'm here to help people get rid of demons. And he gets real close, and he's like, I need help getting rid of demons. And I'm like, of course you do. Like, what are the chances? I made sure that I had all my protective measures up so that I wouldn't have to deal with this in my normal routine. So I'm like, look, buddy, don't talk to me. Call this ministry, and I'll be there on the weekends, but that's the best I can do for you. However, he was hot. So I wound up having these lunch dates with him, and, quickly learned that he was not for me at all. But he signed up like that. Went through Deliverance, and I'm like, okay, well, this guy, he's making some strides. I don't know what his personal story is. And then he calls me one day, and he's like, hey, can I have a session? I'm like, okay. And he had been drinking, and I'm like, well, it's kind of like 2 PM, so that's an issue. And he proceeds to tell me that he had molested his 7-year-old stepdaughter. And so I have my stoic look as I'm facing him, but on the inside, I'm screaming, and I am taking right back to all of my own childhood trauma, and I'm like, I can't deal with this. I'm not equipped. I am not ready. And I said to the Lord inside, I'm like, you need to get this man as far away from me as possible. I am not even walking into this territory. The very next day, this person got a U-Haul, packed up all of his belongings, and moved to the West Coast. I'm just saying, it was miraculous. I needed it at that time. However, here we are, a solid 4 years later, and all I am working with are families that have had problems with incest or molestation to a very young child within their home. The very vision that I had in the dream that manifested is now living out in my life, where I'm breaking off a tree branch from the place that I'm healed of, and I'm able to give it away, and these families are able to soar. Now, I can't get into all of the reasons why people do the things they do without an explanation outside of the spiritual realm, because demons are real. Deliverance is the children's bread. You know, it's kind of like salvation. You know, those of us that are believers, it's our right to deliverance. But it's not just one of those things that happen when we get saved. It's a choice, just like salvation was. And there's plenty of people that don't believe they need deliverance, and I'm going to let them think that, because it's usually those that are very desperate that are like, I've done something wrong. This place in my history is, you know, sabotaging my daily relationships, and I don't know how to move beyond it. But you know what? God meets those people. It's the willingness that he says, let me take that burden, that heaviness off of your shoulders so that you can soar high and you can fly above those circumstances. So my life and all of its journey of seeing really hard stories play out, I get to also usher in the ability for inner healing and wholeness to be something that completely changes the course and direction for everybody involved.